Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Booktube Chicks Book Club. Tonight we are talking about our September book of the month, which was Faith Taking Flight by Julie Murphy. Tonight I am with the other two Booktube chicks, Desiree from Libri Labra and Kathleen from For the Love of Books. And for the next hour or so, we are going to be talking about this book, which is the first in a duology. For those of you who've never been to one of our live shows before, basically what we do is for the first couple of minutes, we're going to do a synopsis and do our spoiler-free general thoughts. And then after that, we will move into spoilers. And I guess I'll go ahead and start with the synopsis of this book. Faith Taking Flight is the first in a duology about a plus-size superhero named Faith. She is a normal teenage girl, and then she is, I guess the best way to explain it is she's experimented on at a place called I think it's called the Harbinger Foundation or something like that. And she gains the ability to fly. This is based off of a comic. I'm not exactly sure who does the comic. I can't remember. So it is based off of that comic, and this is just a YA novel format of it. And my general thoughts, being very general, are I gave it 2 stars, and I'm really upset about that because I really like Julie Murphy's work. I've read most of her books before, and this is probably one of the only ones that I haven't read, and it felt like a completely different person was writing this book, and there's a lot of confusing things going on with it, and I'm really bummed that I didn't like it, and I also kind of regret buying a physical copy. All right. Desiree, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. So, I have only read like 2 other Julie Murphy books, and I enjoyed them, but I don't remember giving them like beyond a 3-star. They were just like, I liked them, but they weren't mind blowing in any way. I feel like I liked the dumpling movie a little bit more than I did the book. But for this book in particular, I feel like it just had way too much going on. And I get that, there's a superhero, so there's going to be stuff that, is not what we deal with in reality. But I feel like it was just written in a way that made it so unbelievable. Like I couldn't buy into any of the characters. I kind of didn't care about anybody. And there was just, maybe it was because there was so much happening. Like I couldn't really invest in any one thing because, if it wasn't like animals disappearing, and it was like what's going on with her grandmother, it was her having superpowers, it was her figuring out what her sexual identity was, it was just like, so and then the obsession with the TV show and what was going on with her friends, there was like so much. And I think if it had been just narrowed down to like 2 or 3 things that we were focusing on, I might have been able to invest in the characters a little bit more and really care about the story a little bit more. In regards to what I would rate it, I honestly still have no idea. So maybe by the end of this, I will have figured out. But right now, it's hovering somewhere between a 1 and a 3-star.
That's a big hovering range there.
So I kind of feel the same. I was the first one to finish this book, I believe. And I listened to the audiobook. I don't have a physical copy of the book, and to be honest, thank God. When I listen to audiobooks, I really have to focus because I tend to get really easily distracted. And this one, when the book started going, I kind of just really didn't like the book, so I just stopped trying to make an effort into paying attention into the book. So to be honest, there might have been details that I missed when I was listening to the audiobook. I didn't I'm like Chloe. I have read her previous works. I've read Dumpling. I've read the sequel, which was Pudding. There is the 3rd book coming out, Pumpkin, and I really, really enjoyed that series. It's entertaining. It's really heartwarming for me. I love that series. So I was kind of hoping going into this book, because we were talking about, superheroes, so it might have been a little bit more fun. It was not any of that. It was kind of like what Desiree said. It was too much happening at once. There's her trying to figure out her identity. Then there's people missing. And then there's her superpowers. To be honest, I got really lost in the story, and not in a good way. Lost in the story, meaning like I just don't understand what happened. Um, excuse me, but I rated this book a 2. I'm really contemplating rating it a 1, but the thing is, like, for me to rate a 1, I really have to hate the book, and for me, to be honest, I don't understand much of the book for me to really hate it. I just don't get the book, and I didn't enjoy it. I can't say I hated it. So I might just keep it at a 2, but and again, it's like Chloe said as well, it does feel like a different person wrote this book. It didn't feel like it was Julie Murphy, and it really saddens me because I'm not someone who reads a lot of contemporaries, and Julie Murphy's contemporaries are ones that I really enjoy. So yeah, just go into this book if you're thinking about reading this book. Go into this book with lower expectations, especially if you enjoy Julie Murphy. Go with it with lower expectations, and you might enjoy this book.
How would this be classified? Is it classified as like a YA contemporary sci-fi? Like,
I was, yeah, oh. I was thinking we're like a YA mixed with mystery, mixed with a little bit of sci-fi, urban fantasy kind of thing. I'm to be honest, I'm not really sure, but that's a good question.
I'd call it some sort of like magical realism sci-fi, like sci-fi realism type of deal, whatever that would be. The thing that Kat was saying about how it didn't feel like Julie Murphy, I just wanted to say, like, last month I read If the Shoe Fits, which was her adult debut, and that that book I loved. I really enjoyed that one, whereas opposed to this, I didn't enjoy it. So I wouldn't necessarily write off Julie Murphy if this is like the first thing you've ever read by her and you didn't like it, because she's written so much. She's probably written like closer to 10 books now, and there's some really great ones, and this just happened to not be a good one. So I wouldn't completely write her off if this is your first experience with her. We are going to move into spoilers now. I just wanted to give a little warning before we headed that direction. Is there anything in particular that anybody wants to talk about, or do we just want to start somewhere? Cool.
I don't know what to suggest. It's so messy.
Wanted to rant. It's more like I feel like very indifferent in this book, so I really don't care where we start. But you said in the messages that you wanted to rant, so I'm like, just throw it at me. I want to know what you like hated about the book so much.
I'm fairly open-minded, and it's so rare that I read a book that I'm like upset, like at the end, or just feel like, wow, that was a waste of my time. Or I don't even like using terms like that to describe people's work, because I'd rather just be like, okay, it wasn't for me. But this just kind of felt a little frustrating because I felt like it had all the elements of something I would like, right? Just to make a small comparison, and not to necessarily compare authors, but like, I love Ashley Poston, the way she does like cons and pop culture and stuff like that. And so I know I can get into that, and I know I can totally buy into that. And for some reason here, it was just a little tough. And something that I was thinking about as well was like, it's supposed to be YA, but some of the pop culture references seem like on the older end. Like, I mean, are teenagers today really giving a shit about Buffy? Like, have any of you seen Buffy? No. Okay. Chloe hasn't. Kat has. I have not. I know of Buffy, but I haven't like watched the series or anything. But it just feels a little bit for an older audience that would be kind of totally obsessed with like Joss Whedon and Buffy and stuff. And there was just so there's a lot of ingredients that I think should have made a delicious cake for me, which just didn't. They just didn't work together. And I don't know what else to blame other than the writing itself. And not that like we've seen that Julie Murphy can write something well, but if I don't care about the characters, or if I can't even like believe what's happening, like there was a part where she's obsessed with this TV show, and then all of a sudden one of the main characters on the TV show has a crush on her. Like, okay. And so we get into that, and that story starts to develop. And then I finally like maybe start to buy into that a little. And now she's like this like secret agent working with like the company that's doing all this terrible stuff, and she's a horrible person. And I was just like, oh, come on. I wanted to throw the book across the room. Like, it was just stressing me out.
For me, I was kind of relating the TV show to Doctor Who, because it's something that, started, X amount of years ago, and it's, different generations really like it, and it's gone on for so long. I was like, Doctor Who is like a great comparison, I feel like, because of how, like, Doctor Who started in like 70s, I think. I don't know, I don't watch Doctor Who either. But that was my comparison for that. And I definitely understand what you're saying about like all these different plot points. I actually tried to write it out yesterday. And it was like, she's a regular girl who really likes this TV show, and then she can fly, and she was captured by, X person, and she was able to fly now. And then, people are disappearing, and there's all this, and the TV show also got moved to here. And then there's also that really jacked love triangle too that was going on. And I'm like, you have like all these 5 different plot points. If you pick 2, I think that would be good. And I mean, I don't necessarily want to say that it's all Julie Murphy's fault, because it is based off of a comic. So if she's trying to stay true to the comic, then maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's worth noting that like I'm not familiar with Zephyr or Faith. I forgot her last name now, but I'm not familiar with that character in regards to the comic, so I don't know how strongly she stuck to that story.
I mean, that's true, but also I feel like if you're going to write a book inspired by something else, and that something else, again, I don't, just like you guys, I don't know about the comic. I don't know how many volumes there are in this comic. Like, I don't know how expansive the world is. But if you're going to write one book, well, 2 books, I guess, in this case, but if you're going to write a book based on a comic series, and there's so many different plot points, and you're going to try to jam them all in that one book, maybe expand beyond 2 books, and maybe make the book longer. And like, the book is very, very short. It's 300 and something pages. Maybe by expanding the book a little bit more, I mean, making a longer book, yeah, it might suck, but still, it might have given more room for the story to breathe. In my opinion. Again, I don't know anything about the comic. I don't know how long it is, but it's just how I feel.
And I also feel that, like, looking at the cover, you see her flying. Like, it's part of the story, but it just didn't feel like enough of the story. Like, we have some moments where she, I don't know, saves a nest, and then she saves another person on the roof. But like, if she's just learning and she was just activated, and like, I don't know, man, if I was a superhero, and like, I know you kind of develop yourself as a superhero, you don't just wake up and you're a superhero. But if I was activated and I could fly, I feel like that would be all consuming. I'd probably be flying to school. I'd be like, would I tell my best friend right away? Maybe not, but like, I feel like I would be doing so much more with it. And it seemed like she only whipped it out in very convenient circumstances. And then there was even a line where she said that it came so naturally to her, but at the same time, she couldn't control it, which just seems contradictory. If something comes really natural to you, then I don't know. And then the other girl, who was a Sayat, had like siren song plus fire hands. Like, what is that? What kind of combination is? I don't know. And like, Faith can just fly. Maybe she discovers other aspects of her powers later on or something. I don't know, but it was too much.
Yeah, I saw I was on Twitter earlier today, and I saw like an advertisement for the second book, because I guess it hasn't come out yet. And I was looking at it, and I like just finished this book last night, and I was just like, you know, it's something that I actually probably would have looked forward to if I had enjoyed this book. And I'm so bummed that I didn't like it. Like I was so determined, like that thought I was gonna like it, that I like bought the book. Like if I'm iffy on whether I'm gonna like something, I get it from the library. But because I've had such great experiences with Julie Murphy's work before, I thought that this was gonna be something that I really liked, and I just didn't. And I'm upset about it because I spent money on the book. I mean, I'm glad I supported an author, but like now I have this book I don't like on my shelves.
There was something else I was going to say, and it just like slipped my mind. Oh, that like I was reading a review and somebody was like, stupidity was Faith's personality trait, like her main personality trait, basically. And while like I don't think I would use those exact words, I can like understand where that reviewer was coming from, because even from like the prologue, she's online talking to somebody online, and then she's like, yeah, sure, I'll come to whatever, like, hello stranger danger, whatever else. Like, why is she just agreeing to meet up with this person online? And he's like just telling her, maybe you're special, maybe the fact that your parents died means you're meant for more, or like, I don't know, she just seemed like really really gullible. Because if somebody found me online and was telling me things, or even if like they were trying to convince you that you had a superpower, I feel like there would just be more internal struggle going on there. I don't think people just say, yes, I'm a superhero.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned the prologue because I completely forgot about it and I had to just flip forward to the book and see what it was about again. I mean, I don't know where to go with this book. I tried writing notes and I just couldn't. Um hmm. I don't know, like part of me wants to know what happens in the next one because this book very clearly left off where people had escaped, like a bunch of people had escaped, couldn't be found, blah blah blah. So I kind of want to know what happens in the next one, but I also like I don't want to waste my time anymore. I don't know.
I
I,
like even the that Kiera Cass book that we read. I forget the name of it now. The last one that we read.
Betrothed.
Yeah. So I didn't love that, but that I felt was at least interesting enough that I wanted to read the next one. And I don't think I
No,
feel that way here. I
no.
don't think like I don't know.
No,
I would love
yeah, it was at least a little bit interesting enough, the ending, for me to be curious about the next book. This one does not give me any desire to pick up the second book.
but I would still love for it to find its audience. Like, I'm hoping I can think of someone to pass it along to that's going to thoroughly enjoy it, because there were people giving it 4 and 5 stars. So like there's something they're connecting to there that I'm clearly missing.
you know, something that I'm wondering is I looked into the I mean, when I say looked into, it was very brief. I looked into the comic that this was based off of, and the little blurb that I read. I think I got the link from Julie Murphy's website. The little blurb that I read. Um, the way it was worded makes me wonder if it's not YA comic to begin with, and this was adapted for a YA audience. So I'm gonna go back and look at that actually and find out for sure.
I know there's instances in plenty of books, I'm sure, where people can be two-faced or duplicitous, and it happens. I know that it happens in real life here, but like, the introduction of Dakota, where she was just like totally accepting that this celebrity, wanted to be friends with her and was revealing so much information. And then they were kind of like hanging out and getting close. Like,
I thought,
also, she was being very stalkerish too.
yeah, I'm glad it wasn't only me. I thought that Faith was being a little bit too like gullible, and maybe a little bit too trusting. Like if a celebrity came up to me and just really wanted to be my friend, I would be slightly suspicious, but it felt like Faith just jumped in. Like who cares? I'm just gonna go for it. And I don't know if part of the reason is because she's very gullible, or part of the reason is because she loves the series so much, and it kind of just um, because of her love for it, it kind of just she left the door open for this mega celebrity to just waltz right in. But yeah, I agree with that. It felt a little bit unnatural to me, but I kind of just went with it.
It took so long for me to even believe that aspect of it, that when it turned out she was being completely two-faced, it just
Yeah.
like I couldn't even. I was like, come on. Like,
Yeah. And then there was that moment where Faith asked, was any of it real? And she was like, part of it, or I don't remember her response, but she said something along the lines that it was a little bit real. And I was like, no, it wasn't. You may have like developed some kind of fond feelings for Faith later on, but no, no.
and then the fact that then like, so they made her seem like a cool person. They made Dakota seem like a cool person with genuine interests. And then it was like, okay, no, she's two-faced and she's actually a villain. And then at the end, they tried to spin it around. Like Julie tried to spin it around again to be like, oh, well, there is some good in her because she helped them escape or whatever. Come on.
Probably try to make her into like a gray villain. I don't know.
But
Yeah.
she wasn't. She still felt like very black and white and
Yeah.
like on and off and not I don't know, nobody felt real.
Can we talk about Swan Bell? That name, when I heard that name, I was like, really? You couldn't come up with something? Is that like an actual character in the comic? Because if it is, I'm gonna die.
Hold on, where was that? Because I saw you guys like texting about that, but I didn't remember it. Can somebody remind me where that was so I can find
She's
it?
part of the TV show. She was the person that was like drunk on the rooftop.
Oh, right.
At a house party. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that I was like, really? Like you couldn't come up with something more original, but okay.
So looking into the comic, it looks like it was a limited series, so it's only like 4 or 5 volumes. And I can't tell if she's still a teenager in the comics, because the way it was worded, it says, this once ordinary teacher, or not teacher, teenager, um, is now, blah, blah, blah. And it says, with a part-time job as a reporter. And I'm like, so maybe the whole like animal thing was like made up for this book. I'm very confused by what's going on with everything.
And again, I just find it so hard to talk about because, right, we're all multifaceted and we all have different interests. So it's not like she can't be an animal activist and work at the shelter and also be a journalist at school and also be a superhero. But it
just hearing you talk about it makes me exhausted. Yeah, you're right. It's not like it can't happen. There are multiple people out there who like that sort of lifestyle where they have so much going on in their life. Good for them. And I'm not that person. But it's like you said, it just seemed very unrealistic, and it felt like piled on for a book that's 300 plus pages. It just I'm not saying that other authors haven't done before where they put so many points in one book, but I do feel like maybe Julie Murphy didn't quite grasp the comic book itself. Again, I haven't read the comic book. I didn't even know it existed. But maybe she didn't really put the plot points together in a cohesive way for the book.
It just seems really strange to describe it as unrealistic because we're talking about a book that has like a flying teenager and, celebrity crushes where they're getting together and so in and of itself, it's kind of unrealistic, but you still want it to be written in a believable way.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, for example, for many of our books, I mean, they're all very unrealistic. I mean, Harry Potter, Cassandra Clare books, but they are for me personally, they're written in a way that kind of makes it believable itself, the story itself, even though it is not believable for our world. Um, but in talking in terms of that, I do feel like the book itself was unrealistic in terms of fiction. Can I actually, like, are you throwing me in the story in a way that I will believe that this actually happens? And I don't feel like it did.
Yeah, I think this was just a rough ride. I think this was just like a rough ride all around, and I think this is probably like the first book in a while that we've all really just disliked.
Like even her friends kind of irritated me.
Hold up.
Like
Oh my god, you just reminded me.
Yes,
What's that
I
whole
agree.
thing with like the drug A plus? And I'm like, oh my gosh, completely forgot about that.
The what?
the designer drug, the A+ drug.
Oh, yeah, I don't like her friends either. Like the moment I realized I didn't like her friends was at the very beginning in the party where they just left her because she didn't pick up the phone. She could be dead in a ditch and you just go home. And then the fact is that they get mad at her later. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I get it. It sucks. She didn't pick up the phone. She wasn't really dead on the ditch and she didn't pick up the phone and making her friends worry. But personally, if any of you guys were like missing at a party with people we don't know, the first thing that doesn't come to my head is going home and being mad at you guys. Okay, the first thing that I would do be like call the police. But like her friends, just yeah, they just piss me off.
Yeah, like, and especially when like there's like celebrities involved in like her favorite TV show, I just feel like close friends would have been a little bit more understanding. Maybe like later on down the road, if they noticed, she was being super flaky and she was like totally changing, I could understand them getting upset, being like, oh, well, hanging out with famous people changed you. But the fact that like immediately they were like, you're
And not
just
only that, I mean, for me personally, if this was happening to one of my friends, I would be more worried than be focused on upset because I don't know these people personally, and celebrities have this reputation of being involved in things that aren't necessarily sometimes legal. So, like for example, drugs. And I don't know if they're like my friend is this very gullible person who's in love with the show and all these people from the show are giving her attention. It makes me suspicious and I'm going to be more worried about said friend. I'm not just going to start being mad at her paying attention to them. It's more like I'm going to be like, what are they doing to her that's making her abandon her old friends? You know what I mean?
I think I spaced out in a couple of spots, and so there was that love triangle going on. Did things go anywhere with Johnny? Like after the cornfield, I don't remember where Johnny ended up.
I feel bad for Johnny. I was actually like, even those at the beginning of the story, I was like, Dakota or Johnny, who am I going to cheer for in this weird love triangle? I'm going to be like, okay, it's Johnny. Johnny's kind of cute. He's like, he held her hand in that one moment. And he doesn't come on strong. And I feel like Dakota comes on strong. So, yeah. Nothing came off it. I feel like I completely lost track of him after the cornfield thing. So
And
that love
I'm
triangle was at a dead
offended.
end.
I'm offended that they made Dakota like, oh, she's so into Bumble and she loves animals and she's so sweet and she's gonna take care of the dog. And here she was, just like being okay with the animals being kidnapped and I guess injected with this drug or whatever it was they were doing with all the dogs and all the pets. Like, that's too villainous for me when you start hurting animals.
yeah, when you bring on the animals, it's like you're on my bad list. It's like when in the movies, if the human being dies, I'm like, okay. If the dog dies, no.
honestly, I've got nothing at this point. I'm just filled with regret and disappointment.
Wait, Kat, you're muted.
Sorry, I want to know the background into like how was Julie Murphy approached to write a book based on this comic series, or did she read the comic series and was like, oh hey, this is fun, I want to write a book on it, and then reached out to the actual author of the comic book and be like, I want to write a book, let's collab.
I
So
feel like it might have been mentioned in the acknowledgments, but I didn't really read the acknowledgments thoroughly. I had just kind of caught a little bit of the end of the acknowledgments. But the acknowledgments were fairly long, it felt like, so it might be in there.
the only reason I ask is because if Julie Murphy was approached, I mean, I'm not saying she didn't read the story, like the comic, and really loved it. And I'm like, oh, I have this great idea for this book. But maybe I'm thinking, oh, if she was approached and by her publisher or whoever, it was like, oh, we want you to write a story based on this comic series, and her heart was not in it. Maybe that's why, personally, I feel she might not have, like, her heart was not in it, and that's why the books aren't as good as her previous original works. But that's just me. I'm just guessing. I don't really know.
I even found like the dialogue to be kind of awkward. And I don't know if that's just like a Julie Murphy quirk because it's been so long since I've read anything else by her. But the dialogue felt a little bit unrealistic to me in regards to, I guess, the way teenagers would talk. I don't know if there was like, when does this take place? Was it mentioned? Like,
Wait,
I
when
don't
what?
think so. I'm not sure.
I'm just wondering the year it takes place. Like if it's like the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 15.
I mean, for me personally, I'm not saying that people haven't written really, really great like retellings of books. And again, I haven't read the original, so I don't know if she's doing a retelling of the comic series or if she's outright telling the comic series. But I always felt like authors do their best to work with their original works. And if they're writing based on a story that someone else came up with, yeah, they'll try to do a great job on it. But for me personally, it won't read the same. So maybe that's what's happening here.
I can see that. But it also doesn't make me want to look into Faith as a comic either. Like, so I feel like
That's
it kind of
true.
has the opposite effect there.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm skimming the acknowledgments real quick to like see if there's anything. It just says that Faith first appeared in 1992, but her most recent appearance was in Faith Volume 1, Hollywood and Vine. I don't know, but it doesn't give a year. And I'm trying to see, like, was she approached? Did she approach? Whichever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not personally gonna look into the comic series, not necessarily because, well, yeah, it has to do with this book. I just don't have any interest in it. So
I think she was approached because it says, I never in a million years thought anyone would ask me to write a superhero book. And I'm like, oh, that's good enough as confirmation.
I think so. And I think that was the part that I read. That's probably why I was like, I think it's in the acknowledgments.
Well, I got nothing left with this book unless you guys have anything else you want to rant about. So, I don't know. I'm just upset with the
I mean,
book.
I feel like I could rant a little bit more about her friends. Just like, okay, so if I'm tracking, the designer drug was actually, the purpose of it was to find more psyops, right? And then her best friend somehow Did it even say her best friend was taking the drug? No, right? I don't think so. She was with the dude that was selling them, and then a whole murder went down like during some exchange, and then her friend got arrested.
It was some like jacked situation.
I really thought, even though the setup was kind of showing Matt as being gay, I really thought that we were gonna find out that Chess and Matt were like hooking up or something. That's why they kept being alone somewhere and disappearing. I thought that was gonna be the drama there with their little friend group, and didn't quite turn out that way. What do you think about how the dementia with her grandmother was tackled?
I felt like it wasn't mentioned enough. And again, I feel like we're going back to throwing a lot of stuff into the plot point and not developing that story. And it's fine. I'm like, have your mother has dementia. It should be a huge part of your life. And I feel like it got mentioned to us make maybe to connect us more with the character, but it just because it was just mentioned and briefed over and then not made it to be a bigger plot point, it slightly bothered me. But again, I feel like there was all these plot points thrown into the story and most of it was not developed enough.
I think that was the part of the story I cared about the most, though, where I felt like the
Yeah.
most invested, where she was like, the neighbor was like, go home, I'll come with you, you can go to sleep. She was like, my grandmother's out there. I mean, she doesn't even have her coat or anything. She's probably out there freezing. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening to her grandmother? And then the fact, like, I got really angry that they tried to call the cops, and the cops was like, yeah, call back in the morning if she doesn't come home. And I was like, she's already been missing for how many hours? Like, I don't know. That was heartbreaking. I don't know how, because I was under the impression like missing persons. I guess they say that the person has to be missing for like 24 hours. That's what I've always heard.
But I feel like also if it's a vulnerable person and an elderly person would be considered vulnerable, they wouldn't wait for the 24 hours. So, for example, like teenagers, if they go missing, they usually say to wait 24 hours because it's most likely that they ran away and they'll come back. But like for an elderly person, I feel like I don't know personally. I haven't read into this. I feel like they wouldn't wait 24 hours because that's a vulnerable person. It's like a child gone missing. You're not gonna wait 24 hours for to look for a little child. So
Yeah, I want to say it's like children and like elderly people that are supposed to be like the instant searching for, not the 24-hour crap. And also with the dementia storyline, I feel like that may have been one that was put on the back burner because like a lot of other things took more priority. I mean, when you have this many plot points, there's too much going on. Something's gonna get a little lack of discussion.
yeah, but it just I don't know. I feel like it shouldn't have. I feel like this book could have been written better. Could have developed the plot point better.
All right, so I think I have settled on giving it a 2 because I agree with Kat. Like, I don't hate it. I didn't like it. It was okay. It was okay. It didn't do anything super special. I don't think it's gonna be like super memorable. And I'm kind of just not interested in continuing.
Yeah, for me a 2 is like the general consensus is like I didn't like it, but there were like just enough things to make it not a 1. So, I'm sticking with a 2. Kat, did you have any final thoughts you wanted to throw in there?
Yes, it's a 2. It's not great. For those of you watching, if you want to read Julie Murphy, don't start with this book. In fact, I wouldn't even pick up this book. Pick up something else. Go with something else.
Desiree, sorry.
No,
I
I
was
was
gonna
just gonna say,
Desiree, I still think you should try If the Shoe Fits, because that was like worlds better than this. And I know you were saying like you might give up on Julie Murphy because this is like the third thing, but I would try that, then decide if you're gonna give up or not. Because that one, well, because the If the Shoe Fits is the start of a series, but she's not writing the whole series. She just wrote the first book.
yeah, Donna was asking in the chat if anyone had read If the Shoe Fits. I have not, but Chloe has. So
yeah, I haven't either.
You guys should read it. It's really good.
Is it adult? Is it YA?
It's an adult romance, but it's a fairy tale retelling too. It's a retelling of Cinderella. So it's a modern day romance retelling. That's the best I got. And then the second one is going to be a Beauty and the Beast retelling by Jasmine Guillory, who she writes really good romance books. So I'm excited to check out the next one whenever it comes out next year. So I guess all of us were just disappointed with this book, and hopefully the next book that we're going to be reading is going to be better. I don't know if anybody has a copy. Mine is on my desk at work right now. Kat, you're muted, so I don't know what you said.
Which book?
In October, we're actually going to be reading Damsel by Elena. I think it's Elena K. Arnold. That one I'm getting from the library just because I feel like I need to get the rest of them from the library in case I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
But you do have it?
Oh wait, I see it. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, here, this one.
So that is what we're going to be reading in October. Our live show is going to be on Sunday, October 24th. I know that's not the last Sunday of the month, but the last Sunday is Halloween. So some of us are going to be not available. So we'll be reading that in this upcoming month, and you guys can join us on the 24th at 6 p.m. Eastern on this channel to discuss that book. While I haven't been reading a lot of fantasy, I'm intrigued by this synopsis, so I'm hoping for the best. But I'm still going to get it from the library just to be safe. And also, any other announcements? Excuse me. Pages and Pals is going to be happening on October 16th, and that's going to be at 5 p.m. on Kathleen's channel, which is linked in the description below. And then Kathleen and I are also co-hosting Readerama, which is happening this month. That's happening from October 15th to October 17th, and we also host that with Alex from Pucks and Paperbacks. And we're going to be having a couple of 2 live shows, but one of the live shows is Pages and Pals. So it'll be normal Pages and Pals, but we'll also have a couple of extra guests for that live show. And then all the social medias are also linked in the description below, as well as both Kathleen and Desiree and the Booktube chicks socials and all of that good stuff. So thank you all for watching or watching the playback when this is live. And we hope to see you next month for our live discussion of Damsel by Elena K. Arnold. And that's all from us. So we will see you guys next month. Bye.